9 o'clock.
I don't have an actual hard copy of the agenda,
Okay.
so don't ask me any hard questions, Evan. I've got one now.
Welcome everybody. Our midwinter community board meeting. Holy moly, another week, shortest day. We're heading towards spring, back to summer again.
Oh, that's bring it on, baby. Go back to summer again.
Yeah, that'll be good. So yeah, just to get started, everybody's here, so no apologies. Thanks everyone for coming. Public forum, did we check?
Yeah, there's no one.
Check, no one there? No one banging the door down?
No, not by the looks of it.
Okay. Absence of public forum speakers. Anyone got anything for the meeting that's not on the agenda?
No.
Easier. And having looked at the agenda and seeing what's there, does anyone feel they have a conflict of interest with anything that we're going to discuss at the meeting today?
Only airport shares.
No, excellent. And is everything going here? So we're online.
I think so.
Recorded. And it's open for viewing. So first item on the agenda, the minutes from, gosh, the meeting at Colville Hall, which seems like a lifetime ago. Everyone read the minutes?
Yep.
Is everybody happy that there aren't any changes that need to be made? Everything's been correctly recorded?
I'm happy to move them, Gavin.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Motion's passed. So now we are running ahead of schedule. The next item on the agenda is the library request for funding. We have a report. The library's drafted a report and we're going to have library people.
Yes, I was not expecting us to be
9:15.
this quick, and I did suggest 9:15.
Yep.
But Shana, the district library manager, is online. She's been working very closely with them, so she may be able to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Shana?
Morena. How's everyone going?
Good, thanks, Shana.
Margaret, I could definitely speak to question number 3, which is around the district library process. Would that help if I'd started with that one?
If you like, yeah. So one of my questions was just in terms of the request for increased funding, how we are progressing down the road of becoming district library.
Yeah, so it seems like it's a new process for me. I've not brought a community library on to become a district library at any stage in the past, but it has to go through the LTP process. So we're working with a couple of the finance team here in council to put together a proposal around sort of what that might look like in terms of the effect on rates. So that's started in process at the moment, but it definitely is going to take some time before, and then we need to receive submissions back from the community about whether or not to become a district library. So does that give you a bit of an idea around the process?
Yeah, it sounds very processy.
It is. Yeah. And look, ideally, other councils have some activities that are rated at a district level and not at a local level. Unfortunately, we're not in that position because libraries in those places are rated at a district level, and therefore those that can least afford it in our situation are the ones that have, lesser services, whereas it's a lot more equitable when you base it on that way. So we are in the situation we're in, and I'm working very hard with the library board to see if there's a way forward to become a district library. On a operational point of view, from me and the management and the services and the systems, it would be relatively straightforward. They're already on our library system. We loan books, we do training together, we help each other out. So that that's not the sticking point.
Okay. So can I just ask a point of clarification, Shana?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the moment, the other towns by and large are district funded their libraries?
No, take that back. So in the Thames Coromandel district area, all district libraries, so that's Thames, Mercury Bay and Tairua, are locally rated. In some other council areas, they're district rated, which gives you different opportunities. We're not there
So,
yet.
Shana, just for clarification, because I can see a little bit of people, what you're saying is the Thames Library, the Mercury Bay Library and the Tairua Library are considered district libraries, however they're funded locally by those wards.
Yeah.
Yes,
Correct?
Margaret. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. There you
All
go. Good
district
clarification.
libraries are community libraries that receive some type of funding support from their community boards.
Exactly. Yes, some
So what you're
grants.
saying is if Coromandel became, and correct me if I'm wrong, if Coromandel became a district library, it would be known as a district library and receive a lot of the benefits that come from being a district library, but would be funded by the Coromandel-Colville ratepayers.
Yep.
Correct.
Just to be clear.
Thanks, Shana. I was in a bit of a cloud there. That's all right. That's
Yeah,
good.
no, sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Did you say, or you did not say, that there is discussion in council about the changing of how libraries will be funded, or no?
I think they're looking at all services about how they're funded. And I think that also includes some of your parks and reserves and sort of recreational services, because again, it's the same thing. The haves get, the haves not don't get. That takes a lot of willingness from everyone across the board to also view it that way. In libraries, we definitely see things very much on a sort of community level and like to look at equity above other things. So potentially we're definitely much more in favour of those sorts of things. So I've heard that they are talking about it, but I as to when that might happen or if it happens, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, Shana, as a district library, then is the financial operations kind of taken away from the local group? Just thinking about how the funding kind of works. So at the moment, they're sort of getting supported by the community board directly through grants.
Yes.
As a district library, how is that funding sort of channeled through and accounted for?
So it would then be, we would have, I'd manage all the budgets. I would, everything that where I'm working with finance at the moment is around what an average cost would be, and we're basing it on a similar type library, which is Tairua Library. Again, similar community base, population base, rating database, that sort of thing. And then that would be automatically on the rates in installments. So therefore, it's kind of like prepaying for those services. And so there'd be no grants, but it would come out on the rates side of things.
So effectively, the difference would be the local volunteer committee would not be managing the running of the library. You would be as the district library manager. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, they still have volunteers and there'd be a staff member, but that staff member would be responsible to Shana rather than the committee. Yeah.
And the committee still have a valuable input into the running of the library in terms of they can change their focus. So instead of how they're managing everything, which I think is part of the difficulty being volunteers and getting volunteers to fill those roles, that they would instead be there as support for the library and advocate. They can apply for funding, which we can't because we're a district library. So they effectively become a group that's called Friends of the Library, or Friends of the Coromandel Library, and they can have input in that particular way. But yeah, the rest of it is definitely all the management aspects, all the day-to-day stuff, all the health and safety, all of that stuff. I manage budgets, staffing levels, all that sort of thing.
Shana, question. So a comparable library in the district, similar to ours, what's the annual cost of running those libraries, or that library that relates to ours?
Yeah, I don't have that information to hand right now, but it is part of what we're pulling together with the finance team for being able to put in that information through to the LTP process.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. And so a time frame then, if you're thinking long-term plan, when do you think we might work through and come to a conclusion?
A conclusion. So at the moment, we're starting the documentation to put together. That needs to go through to the LTP process, which is like the start of next year. And then submissions, and it all, I believe, is meant to be up and running before the 1st of July 24. And I say that with bated breath because hopefully it just runs as smoothly as that.
Cool, thank you. Awesome. Well, any other questions?
But so, Shana, just so that it's not a shock to the community board, we have had a conversation that once you get the proposal ready to be submitted to the LTP, you will bring it to the community board first?
We could definitely do that. There's no problems with that. Yep. Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. I'm sure we're going to end up with a better library service in the end.
Well, it's about what the community wants to, and I believe that they do want a greater service in terms of library, and we have a lot of community Coromandel residents who are already Thames Library members because they want access to better services. So I think that's a clear indication that they do want more. So hopefully we can make that happen for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. The local library people probably won't be far away. Are you going to stay, Shana, while we hear from them, or say goodbye?
Yeah, I guess, do you have any questions at all about how a district library runs, or no?
I think we're all happy.
You're all happy? Okay.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
In that case, have a lovely day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Do you want to wait until?
No, I don't have my questions. The questions that I had, I don't think are going to sway my decision either way, I don't think. Just looking for some information with regards to the ongoing funding, I suppose, for the library and what's going to happen. So, unless
I'm just wondering
Now we've got footsteps.
if that
Come in, Kim.
say,
yeah.
contribute. So we should wait till then.
Are we in the dock?
Hi. Pull up a chair.
Yeah, you have one of the.
That sounds
you
like
can grab
for
that one.
somebody really important.
That'd be you.
Oh,
There you go.
But you did it at the Nā mihi nui ki a koutou.
Ngā mihi kia korua.
Welcome. Thanks for coming on a chilly winter's morning.
Sunshine.
Sun's shining. It's lovely here when you can sit in it. We should have a meeting somewhere sunny instead of.
Beautiful over at Ruffin Bay. Sun streaming in.
So we have a report from the library requesting additional funding. Yep, yeah, just wondering if you'd like to kind of, has everyone read the request?
Yes.
Probably no need to just talk through it. Pardon?
The guests really should only be here to ask questions.
Yep. Yep. So we have the request, we have the report that's accompanying it, supporting your request. Does anyone have questions regarding the request?
I guess this will be suffice to see you through. No problems?
Well, the issue with the library is it has functioned since 1980 with very minimal support, very appreciated support from the board and council. But we now find ourselves at the end of Deirdre Airy's legacy, which was significant, as you know, and having to employ a librarian, because up until now, the library has been run completely by volunteers.
Yeah.
And now we have a paid librarian, which was very much to do with taking up kōtui instead of the handwritten card system, and providing a wider service for Coromandel by opening up the library and book requests to, you know, nationally basically, by signing up to kōtui, which seemed a wise step to take. We've got very good at applying for external funding from gaming trusts and things like that, but they're limited in, they like to provide funding for you just for the 6 months ahead, which makes it a bit tricky for employing somebody. So, you know, we're exploring, we're in the initial stages of exploring all sorts of ways to keep the service going to the over 450 people who depend on the library in this community.
Yeah, we're very fortunate with our current librarian. He's intimated he's prepared to actually work for free or reduce his rate if we run short of money. He loves the job. And he's got very, very tight client budget. And he hasn't, I'm the treasurer, by the way, and I enjoy doing his wages because they never vary. He's never charged overtime, even though he doesn't.
Yep. No, look, I'm happy to move the recommendation that we support you for the $15,000, but that we're empty now. We've got no more money. Okay, so
Well,
that's
that
it.
will take us through, our current funding agreement expires.
Yeah.
And it'll take us through to the end of that.
Yep. No, I'm happy to move it.
Because that was kind of my question along the same sort of lines, wondering, obviously there was a decision made by the library committee to employ somebody. Prior to making that decision, the committee must have been satisfied that you had sufficient funding to employ somebody.
There were two parts to that. One is that we couldn't find anybody to do it as a volunteer.
Yeah.
That was the main thing.
Yeah.
And the other one was kōtui, you had to have.
Kōtui is the library system.
And we
that's used.
had a lot of
Things in with the other libraries, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
the library was quite flush with funds that had been built up over the years.
Yeah.
We had spent some of it to repaint the roof of the library and do various other things in the library building, which is owned by the council. And also with the wind-up of the trust, we got a lot of money out of that. And that covered the costs of extra work going on to kōtui and what have you. So we had that all lined up, but the assumption always was that we'd have to do something else, such as, well, I understand the Coromandel Library is funded by the community board down there.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the options. Or the other option is just hand it over to the TCDC library system.
We've been quite badly impacted by the very low interest rates for our term deposits too. I mean, those things, and the impact of COVID as well. They they have had an outcome. So we're really just in the initial stages of exploring how to maintain the service to the community. This was one of those avenues.
And so as to ensure, as John said, going back to the well again and again, what's changing now looking forward that's going to mean that you can get through?
We have a request to explore the possibility of becoming a district library.
Yep.
We don't know the ins and outs of all that and the commitment it will make, but we are exploring that to see if that would be a way through. I think you're all aware that continuing to find volunteers, even with us as an incorporated society, the commitment to find a treasurer and a secretary and a chairperson and maintain all the legal entities of that as volunteers becomes increasingly challenging.
I'd like to thank you for doing all that, guys.
Yeah.
I really do.
We're passionate about it. It's a bit like the swimming pool as well. You know, we've got top quality facilities in this community, and if we're going to keep them going, we've got to explore ways to keep funding that.
You're talking about how you were affected by COVID. In what way were you affected by COVID?
Well, the library membership fell away. What else did we see?
Yes, and a lot of our income comes from the sales of books and donated books. They weren't being sold. People weren't coming in.
How much money are you looking
For
at? For the wages or whatever else you need?
annually,
We pay our librarian $25 an hour, 20 hours a week.
How much is that to you? Roughly.
26,000.
I mean, what else do you get?
So I've got a book budget. We've got running costs such as covering the books.
Yeah.
The computer line charges, insurance is a big one, that's $16 going up.
Jim's done a really good breakdown of our annual budget, which we've had to put forward to the Gaming Trust, of course. I'm pretty sure we'd be happy to provide you.
Yeah, actually, I just want a copy of that if I can have a copy. Also, so this would affect about, how many members have you got?
Well,
And the
what's our
library?
current membership, Jim? It's 450, I think.
Okay, so through this time, through the COVID period, this has affected 400 and something people. Is that
We've
what you're
actually
saying?
had to double our membership fees, which is big. You see, our members now pay $20 a year instead of 10, and that was a big shock, you know, for them as well. And this is another reason to become a district library, is to relieve that burden from them, because the library is an amazing social gathering place for a lot of people who don't belong to many other things, and they come in and they get conversation and friendship and warmth and a place to be on a rainy day, and you know, and it covers all ages and all ethnicities. I don't know that there's another group like that in our town, providing that kind of service. But yes, certainly any information like that you'd like, Jane, we can get to you.
I was just going to, when I said to you before, is, you know, that's that enough. This funding that we've got is discretionary. It belongs solely to this community board. It hasn't, you know, and if this will empty it, there'll be nobody else can get any grants or anything. So I just want to make sure that you knew there was only a very small amount of money, and I'm, you know.
Maybe what would make us feel more comfortable, and this is what I said to to Kilt as well. If there are other groups in need, share it out fairly, because we don't want to operate at the cost of other people.
Oh, that's just the way it is with a limited amount of money, but, you know, by going to a district library system, of course, you wouldn't have so much of this worry. It would be put upon our rates, so.
But there are other conditions about becoming a district library that might be too hard for us. I think they have to be open, you know,
Oh,
4 day, 5 day, you know, all of that stuff that we're still exploring. Is that really what this community wants?
I don't know.
So we are in those initial stages, and what financial support from the board will do is it will give us a buffer of time to explore what the alternatives are and how do we keep the service going.
Yeah, okay.
We're a little town.
Is it anticipated then if that process was to take 12, 18 months to work through, is this going to be enough to get you through to that point?
We're pretty sure it is, but also our dear librarian has offered, if we get to a point where we simply can't pay him anymore, he said, oh, you know, keep going until we can. We don't want to really explore that because we feel that it's most important to have that professional person. We've just got funding for him to do the librarian's course, which is $4,500 through the Open Polytech, and pub charities have just agreed to fund us for that. So you can see that we're trying to work very professionally across a lot of levels. And it's really just almost at the moment, one day at a time, see where we get to next. But to try and keep those doors open for as long as we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A number of years ago, when I was on the committee at the library, we dropped the fee price.
Yeah, because Deirdre's legacy was there in the background.
Yeah.
And we have now chomped through that, keeping that price membership very low.
Can the price,
It's a shame.
the price was dropped, pressure on the council because part of the 10,000 grant, there was pressure to reduce membership fees to zero, which is what the TCDC libraries enjoy. And at that time we had funding, or we had significant backdrop next time. But that's all changed.
I think it's really important for the board to know the work that the libraries put in to keep that building, which it belongs to the council. They hadn't been to look at safety or health for over 20 years. And when they did come this year, it was found that the library is not a safe building, and so they're looking at building a new building. But over that time, the library has paid to paint the roof and to do the gardens and to refurbish the professional space for the librarian upstairs. We've recarpeted, we've bought new furniture, we've bought a computer. I mean, you know, I think as a service, this volunteer group of people have kept that library going in an extraordinary way. And now we're asking for help. And I hope you've all got a tissue now to wipe the tears away.
We'll get them some.
Excellent. Thank you. Any more questions?
Well, I moved it, so you just think if anyone wants to.
So the resolution, it's a suggested resolution to put is that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receives the Community Library's request for funding report dated 24 May 23, and secondly approves a grant of $15,000 from our 22-23 discretionary budget to the Coromandel Community Library for ongoing operational expenses and materials. John has moved it. Any seconds? Thank you. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
All those against?
No, not again.
I was looking at
It's actually official.
Sorry.
Now you can say welcome. You only had a mover at that stage.
We are all in favour. The motion is carried. Thank you, and thank you for coming in this morning.
That's all right.
Hey, keep up the good work, guys.
One other really exciting thing is that for the first time in many years, the library and the information centre are working collegially together,
Yes.
because there's been a bit of,
Yes.
conflict, which is
Yes.
very sad in our little place. Collegially together to have separate spaces but under one roof in the new proposed building. And that has been kind of labelled the information hub for Coromandel, because we've got the social hub at Kilt, and now we're looking towards an information hub that will provide really valuable information services, computer, all of that stuff. So, but again, in the very, very initial stages of planning for that. So, all of this will mean that there's a support behind us to get that through as well.
Yeah. So what's going to help you get to an informed decision about the district library versus something else? What can council do or staff do or the community board do to help you get to that place?
It's finding out what the commitment will be and can we do that? Because if it means we have to be open from 9 till 5, 6 days a week, we're not sure that that's possible. But if rules can change for specific situations, like an isolated little town a long way from anywhere, and we can negotiate that to keep the service going, we'll do our best to do it.
How do we facilitate that?
That's what Shana's doing.
That's what Shana.
Yeah, that is exactly what Shana's doing.
So she's working on it.
Yeah.
She
will lead that.
And again, it's first steps, early days, nothing set in concrete. We're all exploring, can we do this? Is this good for the next 20 years? Will this keep our doors open? Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think Shana did say that as part of that process, there was input from the community around what sort of resource the community wanted and would use. So I think that's a positive in the direction that you're thinking.
Just through the chair, it's worth mentioning that Shana was on the call earlier and set out a bit of a time frame to June, which is when the LTP needs to be adopted. But just this morning, there was a meeting that I've attended recently to look at the project identification journey mapping. So I'll give you some of the timeframes that are within that. So at the moment, we're gathering all the data sources. So for a project like this, we're having a look at what it looks like, and Shana and Bubbles and the people who are involved, getting those together. Then in July, we need to initiate some of the project request forms, which will structure what's being asked for and what the budgets are. By August, we'll complete all of those project request forms and gather them up. Then there'll be a review period. Then in October, the board will receive a first glance of what that looks like. Then in November and December, the council will receive a first glance of what that looks like. Then in December and January, it will come back to the boards again and back to the council again before going out to the general public. So that's the sort of journey and the time frame. It's only a draft time frame at the moment, but that's what you'll need to work through.
Wow.
So I would expect over that period, your proposal will become finer and finer until you've landed what it looks like.
So it's very processy.
It's very processing.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess what Dean's saying is you will kind of know where things are at probably by February next year in terms of what will be going forward to the LTP.
And the library committee will be informed.
Oh, they'll be part of that
They'll be
process.
part of it.
Yeah, and this board will have 2 chances to really look at what's across their ward areas and have a little look and consider what the priorities might be, that type of thing.
Yeah. See what the rating impact is and all that
See
sort
what
of
the
stuff.
rating impacts look like.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and share with you. And,
Nice.
Any questions or comments, you know where to find us.
Certainly. Coffee shop.
Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you, Sarah.
So the work program, I see Andrew. Is there muted? Unmuted.
Here I am.
We're a bit early, Andrew, thank you.
Yeah, that's all right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can I
Sorry?
just, as you were talking about the library, we have a presentation next week on Thursday, the 22nd, with the architect and all the various interested parties about the proposed design. And I have a quantity surveyor starting very shortly on a cost estimate for the construction, the design and construction work going forward. So once that information is available, probably next month, then that will provide Shana with information that she can use for the LTP. Okay.
So Andrew, Gavin, I pushed back a bit on this earlier. Just my concern is that based on the meeting that we had here, and there was a lot of talk about being really clear about what the community wanted, being really clear about what the space was going to be for, being really clear about the drivers behind it and the use case prior to getting into sticks and bricks and mortar and paying money for designs and that sort of thing. When have we done enough of that background work to move forward, to be committing money to spending on quantity surveys and people like that, and drawing lines on pieces of paper?
The good question. The concept design that's been completed to date has only cost about $5,000. And has taken on board comments from various parties involved in the library at the moment, and the quantity surveyor owes me a favour, so he's doing that for me for nothing at the moment. And to answer your question, I think there's been sufficient dialogue to get a concept, and nothing more than a concept, in place that should the project go into the LTP, that is a foundation to go forward. So we are not spending large amounts of money, or haven't to date, and we are aware that there is a risk of this going out of control, as it were. So we are keeping the purse strings very tight at the moment, and without the concept design that we will have and a cost estimate to accompany it, working the LTP will probably stop unless someone can turn around and say, this is what we believe the community wants, and this is our estimate of what it may cost. And that's basically it.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks for calling in the favour, Andrew, appreciate it.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem. Right. Any other questions on the work programme?
Anyone have any questions?
On the work program?
Oh, on the work programme. Right.
So the footpath, the extra money, 120 grand, that's not going to be spent on footpaths. Yeah. Where does it end up going?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you say that again, please?
So we're going to have like the surpluses. Oh, hold on. No, sorry. Creek.
No.
Are you talking about the footpath construction?
Yeah.
Cancel that.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Could I just mention a couple of things,
Yep.
please? Tekuma, we have provided Waka Kotahi with all the additional information that they require, and I am quietly confident that we will get them to sign off before the 30th of June, which is reasonably good news.
That is good news, and well done.
Yeah, it's not necessarily me, John. It's Pinnacle Civil. They've done a lot of background work, and but we are just waiting now to set up another meeting with them and their team to hopefully get it signed off.
Great.
Buffalo Cemetery, John, and through the chair, that is still ongoing. We're still doing geotech testing information on site. That is taking longer than I'm happy with, but it is moving forward. And a bit lower down, public convenience renewals 2435. The contractor is on site right now at 280 hour, and I've been told that that toilet will be complete by the end of this month. So that's also reasonably good news. I'm happy to address any other questions that the board may have.
I just lost Buffalo Road. Where's Buffalo Road?
Just through the chair, is there any update on the Karakia House grounds yet?
Margaret may be able to answer that question. I'm not involved in that at the moment.
I understand it's been signed by our council, being our chief executive, and it's really just sitting at the ministry waiting for them to sign their piece of paper.
Okay.
So I know that John Mustin every fortnight sends them an email, but that's where it's at.
No other questions? Excellent. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, board. Thank you, Chairman.
Cheers, man.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank
See you
you.
in another 6 weeks.
Goodbye. Yeah. Bye.
Ciao.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye.
Okay, so you just have a resolution that the community board receives the CAPEX work program and any other information updates stated 22 May.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. So if everyone's happy to continue, take a break and we'll move on to the next item. The next item is a public excluded item. So we just have a motion that we should move to be public excluded.
I'll second it.
John moved it. Kim seconds it.
There was a stuff in there.
All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that'll allow us to move into item 5.1. So thank you. We'll just close off to the public.